Since their creation, the Earth and Moon have been great friends. The Moon has many more uses than just a beautiful face to admire at night. However, have you ever imagined what it would be like to wake up to the earth-shattering news that the Moon had vanished? What can we all expect? Well, keep watching to find out. It's crazy to think of how much the universe works in our favor, and since everything is going well, we are unaware of the significant influence the Moon has on our culture, language, and beliefs. And interestingly, the Moon moves continuously, migrating 1.5 inches further from the Earth each time. As a result, our planet's rotation is going far more slowly. So in the far future, the hypothetical could be a reality. How crazy does that sound? The Moon maintains the Earth's 23.5-degree tilt, and the planet would shake without our satellite, drastically altering the seasons and temperature. Losing the Moon would certainly result in catastrophic disturbances to the Earth's climate, in addition to making our evenings darker and duller. Okay, let's look at the origins of our beautiful Moon before discussing what would happen if it disappeared today. Origin. It offers light for late night walks. Despite not being formed of cheese, it occasionally seems to have a face. One of the goals of the Apollo program was to disprove various hypotheses about how the Moon came to be. There were 3 major hypotheses about how the Moon formed before the Apollo missions. According to the capture theory, the Moon was once a nomadic body, similar to an asteroid, that originated somewhere in the solar system and was drawn in by the gravity of Earth as it went by. On the other hand, accretion theory possesses that the Moon formed at the same time as the Earth. Lastly, the fission theory states that Earth was spinning so fast that some material broke out and started to circle the planet. Today, though, the giant impact hypothesis is what is most commonly accepted. According to this theory, the Earth and a smaller planet, roughly the size of Mars, collided and created the Moon, and after that, our planet was never alone again. What that basically means is that there was a period of the time in the distant past when it was believed that the Moon didn't exist and that instead there was just proto-Earth and Theia. According to the giant impact theory, as mentioned above, these two bodies slammed into one another back when the planet was still a very large baby. A small portion of the new mass spun out to become the Moon as we know it. But virtually all of Earth and Theia melted and reassembled as one entity after this catastrophic impact. It's amazing to think that if something so terrible could actually breathe life and result in something so magnificent. And now that we've explained the origin of our beautiful Moon, it's time to return to the juicy topic at hand. What would happen if the Moon vanished? Since the Moon is now so far away, most of what it does for us is very long term, such as maintaining our orbit over tens of thousands of years. It's like a sibling who is constantly watching our back, and if you keep watching, you'll discover how much of our back it actually covers. And this is one of the most terrifying worst-case apocalyptic scenarios that's available. Before we get into all that apocalyptic talk, the last Star Wars remake is a close second. Anybody who has lived up to this floating rock knows how important the Moon is, or so we thought. There is no question that the bulk of the planets in our solar system have at least one moon, and some have multiples, such as Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. But don't be fooled. The Earth's moon is special. How special, you ask? First things first, most of us probably wouldn't notice if the moon suddenly vanished one morning. But those who live close to the ocean would be the first to notice. They would first notice that the tides would be much lower, but not entirely gone. Think of it this way, surfing as a sport would not completely disappear, it would just suck. Even while the moon exerts the majority of the gravitational pulling that causes our tides, the sun also contributes. The sun's gravitational attraction would still cause them to rise and fall, but they would only be about 40% as strong as they are right now. Tides transport debris into the water, allowing coastal organisms to thrive. Crabs, mussels, starfish, and snails all rely significantly on tides for survival. Without a coastal ecology, there would be a cascading effect that would have ramifications for sea organisms, perhaps leading to mass extinctions. If you've ever gone to the beach or lived anywhere near an ocean, you're aware of how the tide influences your everyday life. Tides, on the other hand, play a crucial part in Earth's existence. The movement of the tides transports heat from the equator to the poles, and without the moon, Earth's climate may be drastically different from what it is now. Crazy, yes, but we're just scratching the surface. No pun intended. Even though this video is not about the moon drawing closer, it is crucial to note that if the moon moved pretty close to Earth rather than vanishing, the greater force of the moon's gravity would most likely flood New York City and all other coastal locations. Furthermore, tidal motions influence the Earth's climate through driving flow, which in turn redistributes warm water all around the world. Without tides, regional temperatures could be more extreme, both cold and heat, and extreme weather events like hurricanes would be far more common. And if you don't think it would be apocalyptic enough, well, what we know as hours would be substantially shorter. How many hours are there in a day? There are of course 24. However, without the moon, days on Earth would be significantly shorter. A typical Earth day was just approximately 12 hours long. The moon's gravitational pull slows the Earth's rotation, and without it, days would be shorter. And if the moon disappeared and the day became a moonless night, we would notice that the Earth would be much darker. This broken relationship would have far-reaching repercussions for more than just coastal ecosystems. The moon merely reflects approximately 3 to 12% of the sunlight that strikes it. Yet that's enough to keep everything visible at night. But without the moon, it would have been much darker during a new moon, and many nighttime creatures such as owls and lions would be disoriented. Some would become extinct quickly due to the lack of food, but there would be champions who keep winning. If you guessed rodents, then you're right. They tend to retreat so much when the moonlight is at its brightest, so they'd be ideally adapted to a world without the moon. But telling you about the negative repercussions would be too depressing. If our moon disappeared, we would be able to see a lot more stars from Earth, and this would be kind of good for science. A lot more people will be able to discover and name new constellations. Other planets and even galaxies may be more visible. And what we know as eclipses would be no more, as there would be no moon. Of course, there would be no more flights to the moon, and perhaps no more space exploration at all. According to several scientists, the moon serves as an astronaut's stepping stone to the other solar system locations. Without it, it's possible that humanity would not have learned how to leave Earth's atmosphere. The moon's departure would eventually affect the Earth's axis. A lot of people are unaware that the moon has an impact on how the Earth's axis tilts. Our globe tilts at a constant 23.5 degrees. That angle changes though. Sometimes it's just 22.1, and it can occasionally reach as much as 24.5. If the moon wasn't there to help keep the Earth in balance, the difference could become much greater. Seasons exist because Earth spins around an axis that is angled at 23.5 degrees, not due to Earth's orbit around the sun. Because of the northern hemisphere's tilt forward the sun during the summer, there are more daylight hours and higher temperatures, and as a result of the northern hemisphere's tilt away from the sun during the winter, our days are shorter and the temperature is lower. In essence, this implies that if the moon's weight were to disappear, the Earth's tilt would rise, potentially resulting in severe, life-threatening weather events. Experts predict that without the moon, the tilt of the Earth might rise to 45 degrees. The planet would then be rotating on its side, much like Uranus does. Life on Earth would be significantly impacted by this. Basically, this implies that just half of the planet would have access to 6 months of daylight, similar to people who live in any place beyond the Arctic Circle, and then it would be followed by 6 months of darkness. The impact would wreak havoc on both agriculture and other facets of daily life. We believe that Earth is privileged to have a moon, but after all of that, the obvious question is, will the moon ever disappear? To destroy the moon would require an enormous amount of effort. Even though all of this is frightening, attempts to nuke the moon have been considered in the past. After the Sputnik satellite was successfully sent into orbit by the Russian space program, the US Air Force considered the idea of detonating a massive nuclear weapon on the surface of the moon. The 1958 initiative, which wasn't made public until 2000 when the scientist in charge, Leonard Reifel, described the crazy scheme, was a combination of a PR stunt and a scientific experiment, according to The Guardian. What do you think life would be like if there were no eclipses and lower tides? Would you be excited to be able to see some more of those lovely stars? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.